Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The station stretched for miles in every direction, with gleaming towers that twisted up into space like silver trees. Ships from dozens of different worlds moved around it, like busy bees around a hive. "Sir, we're getting a message from the station," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her seat at the communications console. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and fear that Jake felt in his own chest. "Put it through," Jake said, straightening his uniform. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. Not just one alien race, but hundreds of them, all working together in something called the Galactic Confederation. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Jake was looking at a being that made his breath catch in his throat. The alien was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow with its own light. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, its voice had no emotion at all. "Human vessel New Horizon. You are cleared to dock at Bay 77 Alpha. You will be escorted to the council chamber in exactly 1 standard hour. Do not deviate from your assigned path." The screen went dark before Jake could respond. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Lieutenant Ben Torres was frowning at his navigation controls. Dr. Lisa Carter, Earth's top diplomat, was reviewing her notes one more time. Everyone seemed to feel the same thing Jake did. The aliens were not exactly welcoming. "Well," Jake said, trying to sound confident, "let's make history." The docking process was smooth but strange. Mechanical arms reached out from the station and grabbed their ship, pulling it into a bay that was clearly not designed for human vessels. The air they breathed when they stepped outside was too thin and smelled like metal. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal, making every step feel like a tiny jump. Their escort was another of the pale blue aliens. It introduced itself as Sub-Counselor Veleneth, but it did not shake hands or show any sign of friendship. Instead, it simply turned and began walking, expecting them to follow. The corridors of Nexus Prime were vast and cold. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that gave off a soft white light. Jake saw other aliens as they walked. Some had 4 arms and green skin. Others looked like walking plants with leaves instead of hair. A few seemed to be made of living rock, but none of them looked at the humans. They all went about their business, as if the humans were invisible. "This is not what I expected," Dr. Carter whispered to Jake as they walked. "What did you expect?" Jake whispered back, "I don't know. Maybe some curiosity? Some welcome party? Something to show they're happy to." "Meet us?" Jake had to agree. In every movie or book about first contact, the aliens were either hostile or friendly. These aliens seemed to be neither. They just seemed uninterested. The council chamber was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats arranged in circles going down toward the center. Hundreds of different aliens sat in those seats, representing what Jake guessed were hundreds of different worlds. At the very bottom of the bowl was a single chair, clearly meant for the humans' dock. As they walked down the steps, Jake felt like he was walking into a trial. The aliens all watched them now, but their faces showed no expression. It was like being stared at by a room full of statues. The chair at the bottom was too small for Jake, so he stood instead. Dr. Carter stood beside him, her diplomatic case clutched tightly in her hands. Above them, one of the pale blue aliens stood up. This one was taller than the others, with symbols carved into its forehead. "I am High Counselor Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic," it said, its voice echoing in the huge chamber. "We have called you here to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy." Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Thank you, High Counselor." On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we are honored to meet with the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace, hoping to join your great alliance and contribute to the prosperity of all species. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took Jake a moment to realize it was laughter, but not the kind of laughter that came from joy. It was the cold, mocking laughter of beings who found something amusing in a cruel way. High Counselor Veltar raised one long hand, and the chamber fell silent. Humanity wishes to join the Confederation. This is interesting. The High Counselor touched something on the arm of his chair, and suddenly the air above the humans filled with images. Jake saw scenes from Earth's history. Wars, violence, environmental destruction, crime, poverty. But the images were edited to show only the worst parts. None of the beauty, none of the art, none of the love and cooperation that also defined humanity. Observe, Veltar said, the species that requests membership in our peaceful alliance. In the past century alone, humans have engaged in 2 global wars, developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet, and driven hundreds of other species to extinction. They fight each other over resources, territory, and ideas. They destroy their own environment for profit. They cannot even agree on basic moral principles. Dr. Carter's face was red with anger, but she kept her voice steady. Every species has made mistakes in their development. Humans have also created great art, science, and philosophy. We've learned from our errors and grown beyond them. We've eliminated poverty and war on our own world. We've reached for the stars because we want to be better than we were. Another alien stood up. This one looked like a giant insect with jeweled wings. The Kelthani hive has studied human behavior. Patterns. Humans are unpredictable. Their emotions cloud their judgment. They make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. Such behavior has no place in a civilized galaxy. More aliens began to speak. Each one found new reasons why humanity was dangerous, primitive, or unsuitable for membership in the Confederation. They talked about humans like they were discussing a disease that might spread if not contained. Jake felt his anger growing, but he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would only prove their point. Instead, he stepped forward. "You're right," he said, and his voice carried clearly through the huge chamber. "Humans are emotional. We feel anger, fear, joy, love, and hope. We make mistakes because we're willing to take risks. We fight because some things are worth fighting. 4. But those same emotions drive us to create, to explore, to sacrifice ourselves for others. Our feelings don't make us weak. They make us human." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Counselor Veltar stood up again. "The Confederation Council has reached a decision," he said. "Humanity represents a chaos factor that threatens the stability we have maintained for over 2,000 years. You are hereby classified as a Class 7 contamination. Risk. All human colonies and outposts within Confederation space are to be evacuated within 1 solar cycle. Any human vessel found in Confederation territory after that time will be destroyed. Without warning." Dr. Carter's diplomatic case fell from her hands and clattered on the floor. "You can't be serious. You're banishing us from the entire galaxy?" "Not the entire galaxy," Veltar said with something that might have been amusement. "You may settle in the void sectors beyond the rim. No civilized species has ever found a use for that region of space. Perhaps it will suit your chaotic nature." Jake felt like he had been punched in the stomach. The void sectors were the galaxy's wasteland, filled with gravitational anomalies, cosmic storms, and worse things that no one really understood. It was where ships went to disappear. "This is exile," he said quietly. "This is protection," Veltar replied. "Protection for the galaxy from humanity." and protection for humanity from the consequences of contact with superior civilizations. The decision is final. The escort that led them back to their ship was different this time. Instead of the polite but cold sub-counselor, they were surrounded by armed guards from a dozen different species. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer a potential ally. They were a threat to be removed as the new horizon pulled away. From Nexus Prime, Jake stood on the bridge and watched the great station shrink in the distance. Somewhere behind them, the entire human fleet was getting the same message. Pack up. Get out. Don't come back. Sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly. Incoming message from Earth Command. Put it through. Admiral Ben Torres appeared on the wall. Screen, his face grim. Jake, I'm sure you've heard by now. We've got 60 days to evacuate every human settlement in this part of the galaxy. The Confederation is sending escort fleets to make sure we comply. Where are we supposed to go? Jake asked. The void sectors. It's the only place they're allowing us. Jake closed his eyes. The void sectors were a death sentence. No one who went there ever came back. Orders, sir? Lieutenant Torres asked from the navigation station. Jake opened his eyes and looked at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere out there was humanity's new home, a place where they would either learn to survive or die trying. Set course for the void sectors, he said, and send a message to all human colonies. Tell them to pack everything they can carry. We're going home. As the new horizon turned away from the civilized galaxy and headed into the unknown darkness, beyond, Jake Morrison had no idea that he was leading humanity towards something far greater than the Confederation had ever imagined. 10 years had passed since the Great Exile, and Admiral Ben Torres stood at the observation deck of Haven Station, watching another supply ship struggle through the gravitational maze that surrounded their new home. The ship's hull was already scarred from cosmic radiation, and its engines flickered as it fought against the chaotic forces that made the void sectors so dangerous. Another one barely made it, said Commander Chris Hayes, joining Ben at the window. Chris looked older than his 42 years. Life in the void had a way of aging people fast. His hair was already gray, and there were deep lines around his eyes from squinting through radiation storms. How many did we lose this month? Ben asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 3 ships. 2 to gravitational shears. 1 just disappeared. The Murphy's Law was there one moment, gone the next. No distress signal, no debris, nothing. Ben nodded grimly. That was life in the void sectors. Space here didn't follow the normal rules. Gravity wells appeared and disappeared without warning. Radiation storms could cook a ship in seconds. And sometimes, ships just vanished into pockets of twisted space-time that shouldn't exist. Haven Station was humanity's greatest achievement in the void, and it was barely keeping them alive. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, it housed nearly 1 million people. The asteroid's natural mass helped shield them from the worst of the radiation, but resources were always running low. Food, water, air, fuel, everything had to be carefully rationed. Sir, Dr. Rodriguez wants to see you in her lab, said Lieutenant Kate Miller, approaching with a datapad in her hands. Kate was one of the void-born children who had grown up in this harsh environment. She was 23 now, but she had never seen a blue sky or breathed natural air. She says it's urgent. Ben followed Kate through the winding corridors of Haven Station. The walls were made from salvaged metal, welded together by people who were learning to be engineers out of necessity. Every surface was covered with pipes, cables, and jury-rigged systems that kept them alive. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Dr. Amy Rodriguez's lab was in the deepest part of the station, where the radiation was weakest. She had been working on the same project for 3 years now, trying to find a way to harness the chaotic energy. That made the void sector so dangerous. Most people thought she was wasting her time, and hoped they were wrong. "Admiral," Amy said as he entered her lab, "I think I've found something." The lab was filled with equipment that had been salvaged, traded, or built from scratch. Amy stood in front of a device that looked like a crystal ball surrounded by spinning metal rings. Energy crackled between the rings in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "What am I looking at?" Ben asked. "A chaos engine," Amy said, her eyes bright with excitement. "I've been studying the energy patterns in the void for years, trying to understand why they're so unpredictable. The Confederation was right about one thing. This region is full of chaos. But they were wrong about it being useless." Amy touched a control, and the device began to hum. The energy patterns between the rings started to change, becoming more organized. "The secret is that chaos isn't random," Amy continued. "It follows patterns, but those patterns are too complex for normal minds to understand. However, human brains, human consciousness, seems to be naturally tuned to chaotic patterns. We can sense them, predict them, even control them." Ben stared at the device. "Are you saying that our emotions, our unpredictable human nature, actually gives us an advantage here?" "Exactly," Amy grinned. "The Confederation species are too logical, too ordered. They can't understand chaos because they've trained themselves to think in straight lines. But humans? We're natural chaos navigators. We've been dealing with unpredictability our whole evolutionary history." The device suddenly flared with brilliant light, and the lights in the lab grew brighter. Ben could feel the air recycling system working more efficiently. "It's working," Amy said quietly. "The chaos engine is generating more power than we're putting into it. It's tapping into the fundamental forces that make this region so dangerous and turning them into something useful." Ben felt a spark of hope for the first time in years. "How much power?" "Enough to run the entire station, if I can build a bigger version. Maybe enough to power our ships too." "Admiral, this could change everything." Before Ben could respond, an alarm began blaring throughout the station. The red lights of a general alert began flashing, and the intercom crackled to life. "All hands, this is Commander Hayes in the Operations Center. We have multiple contacts approaching the station. Unknown configuration, but they're big. Admiral Torres to Ops immediately." Ben ran through the corridors, his mind racing. Unknown contacts could mean anything. Pirates, maybe, or scavengers looking for easy targets. But it could also mean something worse. Something that lived in the deep, void, and didn't like visitors. The operations center was buzzing with activity when Ben arrived. The main screen showed a tactical display of the space around Haven Station. 3 large objects were approaching from different directions, moving in ways that no normal ship could manage. "Sir, they're not following standard flight patterns," reported Lieutenant Lisa Carter, who was manning the sensor station. "They're moving through the gravitational fields like they don't affect them." "Any response to our hails?" Ben asked. "Nothing, sir. But their energy signatures are ... strange. They're not using any power source we recognize." Chris Hayes looked up from his console. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups from all 3 contacts. I think they're charging weapons." Ben's blood ran cold. "All stations, battle alert. Prepare for combat." Haven Station had weapons, but they were defensive systems designed to deal with pirates and scavengers. If these unknown ships were as advanced as they seemed, the station's defenses wouldn't last long. "Sir, incoming transmission," Lisa called out. It's not coming from the ships. It's coming from inside the station." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a figure that made everyone in the operations center step back in shock. It looked almost human, but not quite. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes glowed with inner light. But unlike the cold, emotionless Confederation aliens, this being's face showed intelligence and something that might have been kindness. "Greetings, children of Earth," the being said in perfect English. "I am Keeper Nixal of the First Remnant. We have been watching your species since you arrived in our domain." "Your domain?" Ben asked. "You live in the void sectors?" "We are what remains of the predecessors," Nixal explained. "We were the first species to achieve consciousness in this galaxy millions of years ago. We built the first civilization, the first technologies, the first attempts at galactic peace. And we were the first to be exiled by those who came after. The revelation hit Ben like a physical blow. The Confederation exiled your people too? Not the current Confederation, but their ancestors. A pattern repeats itself every few million years. A young species develops beyond their neighbors, begins to impose order on chaos, and eventually decides that chaos itself is the enemy. They exile or destroy anyone who doesn't fit their vision of perfection. But you survived, Ben said. We learned to thrive in the chaos. We became something new, something that could exist in the spaces between order and disorder. And now we offer you the same choice. One of the approaching ships moved closer to the station, and Ben could see its design more clearly. It was built from materials that seemed to shift and change as he watched, like liquid metal that had been frozen in the shape of a ship. Its engines didn't produce exhaust or radiation. Instead, they seemed to bend space around them. We can teach you, Nix Owl continued. We can show you how to turn this exile into evolution. The void sectors are not a prison. They are a forge. Here, you can become something the galaxy has never seen before. Amy Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom from her lab. Admiral, my chaos engine just went crazy. It's picking up energy patterns I've never seen before. It's like the entire region is responding to something. Nixel smiled, and for the first time since the exile began, Ben saw genuine warmth in an alien's expression. Your Dr. Rodriguez has taken the first step. She has learned to speak with chaos itself. We can show her how to sing with it. What do you want in return? Ben asked. He had learned not to trust offers that seemed too good to be true. Nothing, Nixal said. We have been alone for so long. To find another species that can join us in the deep void, that can learn what we have learned. It is a gift we did not expect. The being gestured, and the three ships began to change. They unfolded like flowers, revealing complex structures that were part ship, part space station, part something else entirely. We will establish a teaching station near your haven, Nixal explained. Those who wish to learn may come. Those who wish to remain as they are may stay. But know this, the galaxy that exiled you is changing. The Confederation grows more rigid, more controlling. Soon, they will begin to turn on each other. When that time comes, you will need to be ready. Ready for what? Ben asked. To decide whether the galaxy deserves salvation, or whether it should be left to destroy itself with its own need for order. Over the following months, everything changed. For humanity in the void sectors. Some humans, like Amy Rodriguez, TA. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Chaos Runner, watching the quantum storm rage outside the viewports. Lightning that wasn't really lightning danced between clouds of twisted space-time, creating patterns that would have driven most species insane to look at. But Maria had been born in the void 25 years ago, and to her, the storm looked like home. Storm intensity is increasing, Captain, reported Lieutenant Kyle Johnson from the navigation station. Like Maria, Kyle was void-born, and his fingers moved across the chaos navigation controls with the easy confidence of someone who had never known normal space. Perfect conditions for what we're planning, Maria smiled. What they were planning. would have been impossible for baseline humans and completely unthinkable for any Confederation species. They were going to fly directly into the heart of the quantum storm and use its chaotic energy to power a jump that would take them halfway across the galaxy in seconds. "Engineering report," Maria called into her comm unit. "Chaos drives are running at full power," came the voice of Chief Engineer Elena Park. Elena was older, one of the original exiles, but she had adapted to void technology better than anyone expected. "Quantum resonance is stable. We're reading the storm patterns perfectly." The Chaos Runner was humanity's masterpiece, the first ship designed entirely by void-born engineers working with predecessor technology. It didn't look like any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull was made from quantum-stable materials that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. Its engines didn't push against space. They convinced space to move around them. And its navigation system was a hybrid of human intuition and alien mathematics that could find paths through chaos that shouldn't exist. "Incoming message from Haven Station," reported Communications Officer Jenny Brooks. "Admiral Torres wants to confirm we're ready for the test." "Put him through," Maria said. Admiral Torres appeared on the main screen, and Maria could see the worry in his eyes. Ben Torres had aged well in the 25 years since the exile, but he still worried about every human life under his command, especially when those lives were about to attempt something that had never been tried before. "Maria, are you absolutely sure about this?" Ben asked. "The calculations look good, but we're talking about a technology that could scatter your atoms across 3 dimensions if something goes wrong. Sir, with respect, everything we've done for the past 25 years would have scattered our atoms if something went wrong," Maria replied. "We've learned to live with chaos because we had to. Now we're learning to master it because we can." Ben nodded slowly. "The predecessors approve of the test?" "Keeper Nick Sile says the quantum currents are perfect today," Maria confirmed. "If we're going to prove that void ships can travel anywhere in the galaxy, this is our chance." Behind Admiral Torres, Maria could see the bustling activity of Haven Station's command center. Haven had grown enormously over the years. What had started as a desperate refugee camp was now a thriving city of 5 million people. The asteroid had been hollowed out and expanded until it was more space station than rock. Gardens growing in zero gravity provided fresh food. Manufactories powered by chaos engines produced technologies that the galaxy had never imagined. "All right," Ben said finally. "You have permission to proceed. But Maria, bring my people home safely." "Always do, sir." The connection ended, and Maria turned to her crew. They were all young, all void-born, all trained from childhood to think in ways that baseline humans couldn't quite understand. They didn't just navigate chaos, they lived in harmony with it. "All stations, prepare for chaos jump," Maria announced. "Kyle, take us into the storm." The Chaos Runner moved forward, and reality began to bend around them. The viewports showed impossible colors as they passed through layers of twisted spacetime. The ship's hull sang with harmonics that could be felt in their bones. And slowly, carefully, they penetrated deeper into the quantum storm than any ship had ever gone before. "Quantum resonance holding steady," Elena reported from engineering. "The storm is accepting us. It's like the chaos recognizes us as belonging here." "Because we do belong here," said Kyle quietly. "This is what we were made for." Maria understood what he meant. The Voidborn didn't just survive in chaos. They thrived in it. They could sense patterns in randomness, find order in disorder, and navigate by instincts that had been shaped by growing up in the most dangerous region of space. They were evolution in action, humanity adapting to an environment that had been meant to kill them. "Chaos jump calculations complete," Kyle announced. "Target coordinates locked in. We're going to emerge in the Kepler system, right on the edge of Confederation space. The Kepler system was 40,000 light-years away from the void sectors. In normal space, the journey would take months, even with the fastest ships. They were about to make it in less than a minute. "Execute jump," Maria ordered. The universe exploded around them. Not with light or sound, but with pure possibility. For just a moment, the Chaos Runner existed in every point in space simultaneously. Maria could see every star in the galaxy, feel every gravitational current, sense every quantum fluctuation that connected all things together. It was terrifying and beautiful and absolutely perfect. Then reality snapped back into focus, and they were floating in normal space near a yellow star with 9 planets. The Kepler system looked exactly like it did in the star charts, but something was wrong. "Captain," Jenny said from communications, "I'm picking up distress signals. Multiple ships, all broadcasting Confederation emergency codes." Maria frowned. "Put it on the main screen." The viewports filled with the image of a massive space battle. Dozens of ships were engaged in combat around the system's outer planets. But these weren't ships from different species fighting each other. They were all Confederation vessels, and they were firing on each other with desperate intensity. "What are we looking at?" Maria asked. "Civil war," said Kyle grimly. "It looks like the Confederation is tearing itself apart." Maria activated the long-range sensors and began to analyze the battle. The ships were divided into 2 groups. One group was flying the traditional Confederation banner, a stylized galaxy surrounded by stars representing member species. The other group was flying a new flag that Maria didn't recognize, a single blazing sun with radiating lines that looked almost like prison bars. "Jenny, can you decode those distress signals?" "Working on it, Captain. The translation software is having trouble with some of the dialects, but I think I'm getting the basic idea. The faction with the new flag is calling itself the Galactic Purification Alliance. They're demanding that all member species submit to something called genetic harmony protocols, or face elimination." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. "They're trying to force every species to be the same." "It gets worse," Jenny continued. "According to these signals, 17 species have already been declared genetically incompatible and subjected to what they call corrective extinction. Captain, they're committing genocide on a galactic scale." The battle was turning in favor of the Purification Alliance. Their ships were newer, more advanced, and they fought with the cold efficiency that the Confederation had always prized. The ships defending the old order were being overwhelmed. "Captain," Kyle said quietly, "we should go. This isn't our fight, and if they detect us—" "No," Maria said firmly. "These are the people who exiled us, but they're still people. And the ones doing the attacking are something worse than anything the old Confederation ever was." She opened a channel to the engineering section. "Elena, can we use the Chaos drives to disrupt their weapons?" "I'd need to see their technology up close," Elena replied. "But Captain, if we reveal ourselves, we'll be announcing to the galaxy that humanity has not only survived, but developed technologies they've never seen before." Maria looked at the battle raging on the main screen. Ships were exploding in bright flashes of light. Each explosion represented thousands of lives lost. The old Confederation had been rigid and controlling, but they had never been genocidal. This new faction was something far more dangerous. "Signal from one of the defending ships," Jenny reported. "It's badly damaged, life support failing. They're requesting assistance from any vessel in the area." The ship on the screen was a Kelthany. Hive vessel, one of the insect-like species that had been part of the original council that exiled humanity. Its crystalline hull was cracked and bleeding atmosphere. Maria could see smaller ships, escape pods, fleeing from the dying vessel. "Captain," Kyle said urgently, 3 Purification Alliance ships are moving to intercept those escape pods. They're going to kill the survivors. Maria didn't hesitate. Battle stations. Kyle, get us between those pods and the attack ships. Elena, give me everything the Chaos drives can do. The Chaos Runner moved like nothing the Confederation had ever seen. It didn't accelerate gradually. It simply appeared in a new location, as if space had folded around it. The 3 Purification Alliance ships found themselves facing a vessel that defied every law of physics they understood. Unknown vessel, came a transmission in the cold, emotionless voice that Maria recognized as Zephyrian. You are interfering with a lawful purification operation. Identify yourself immediately, or be destroyed. This is Captain Maria Santos of the Terran Void Fleet, Ma. 50 years after the Great Exile, Captain Derek Walsh stood on the bridge of the Quantum Phoenix, watching Confederation space grow larger on the main screen. The ship around him was a masterpiece of void technology, built from materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously and powered by engines that converted chaos into pure kinetic energy. Sir, we're being scanned, reported Lieutenant Amy Cooper from the sensor station. Multiple ships are approaching our position. Configuration unknown, but they're moving fast. Derek nodded calmly. They had expected this. Humanity's return to the galaxy was never going to be subtle, not when they were flying ships that defied every known law of physics. The Quantum Phoenix didn't just travel through space. It convinced space to move around it, appearing and disappearing like a ghost made of starlight. Any response to our diplomatic transmissions? Derek asked. Nothing yet, sir, replied communications. Officer Kate Stevens. We're broadcasting on all known Confederation frequencies, but it's possible they don't recognize our communication protocols anymore. Derek understood the problem. 50 years was a long time in galactic politics. The Confederation that had exiled humanity might not even exist anymore, replaced by the Purification Alliance that they had been fighting for the past 2 years. Still, they had to try diplomacy first. That was what Ambassador Alex Miller had insisted on, and Derek respected the man's judgment. Sir, the approaching ships are taking aggressive positions, Amy reported. I count 12 vessels, all of them larger than us. They're not responding to our peaceful intentions signal. What's their configuration? Derek asked. Pure Zephyrian. Design, but modified. Their hulls are more angular, more militaristic than the old Confederation ships. And, sir, their energy signatures are wrong. Too clean, too ordered. It's like they've removed all the natural variation from their power systems. Derek felt a chill. The reports from the Resistance had mentioned this. The Purification Alliance didn't just want to control other species. They wanted to control the very laws of physics, to make the universe as ordered and predictable as their own minds. Incoming transmission, Kate announced. It's on a standard diplomatic channel, but the signal is heavily encrypted. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and Derek found himself looking at a Zephyrian officer. But this one was different from the aliens he had seen in the historical records. Its skin was whiter, almost colorless, and its black eyes showed no hint of emotion or individual thought. When it spoke, its voice was perfectly modulated, as if it had been processed to remove any trace of personality. Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Purification Alliance space. Identify yourself immediately and prepare to be boarded for genetic compliance inspection. Derek glanced at Ambassador Miller, who was standing beside the captain's chair. Alex was one of the original exiles, now in his 70s, but still sharp as a blade. He had been Earth's top diplomat when the Confederation first cast him out, and he had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. This is Captain Derek Walsh of the Terran Free Fleet, Derek replied. I am escorting Ambassador Alex Miller of the United Human Colonies on a diplomatic mission to the Galactic Alliance leadership. We come in peace and request safe passage. To your capital world for negotiations." The Zephyrian's expression didn't change, but Derek could see something like confusion flicker in its eyes. Terran? Impossible. The Chaos species designated human was eliminated from galactic records 50 standard years ago. No such species exists. "We got better," Derek said dryly, echoing the words that had become humanity's unofficial motto. "As you can see, reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated. This vessel exhibits technology that violates 17 separate laws of physics," the Zephyrian continued. "Such chaos-based systems are forbidden under Alliance purity codes. You will surrender your ship for analysis and submit to genetic correction." Ambassador Miller stepped forward. "Officer, I am a diplomatic representative of a sovereign human government. Under galactic law, we have the right to safe passage and diplomatic immunity. We request an audience with your leadership to discuss terms of recognition and peaceful coexistence." "There can be no coexistence with chaos," the Zephyrian replied. "All species must conform to the parameters of galactic purity or be corrected. You have 30 seconds to surrender, or you will be destroyed." Derek sighed. They had hoped for diplomacy, but they had prepared for this response. "Amy, are you reading any life signs on those ships besides the crews?" "Negative, sir. No prisoners, no civilians. Just military personnel." "Kate, transmit our final diplomatic message to all Alliance frequencies. Make sure it gets recorded in their official logs." Kate nodded and began transmitting. "This is Ambassador Alex Miller of the United Human Colonies. Humanity formally rejects the Galactic Purification Alliances. Demand for genetic correction and conformity. We call upon all free species in the galaxy to resist the Alliance's tyranny and join us in the fight for diversity, creativity, and the right to exist as we are." The Zephyrian's eyes went completely black. Message received and rejected. "All Alliance fleets, this is Supreme Commander Zethkar. Target the Chaos vessel. Use maximum firepower. Nothing must be allowed to survive. So much for diplomacy," Derek muttered. "Battle stations. Show them what 50 years in the void has taught." U.S. The 12 Alliance ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams that could have vaporized a moon. But the Quantum Phoenix was no longer where they were aiming. The ship had slipped sideways through dimensions, existing in the spaces between reality where their weapons couldn't reach. "Chaos drives at full power," reported Chief Engineer Ryan Clark from the engine room. "We're riding the quantum foam. They can't hit what they can't properly perceive." Derek smiled grimly. The Alliance ships were firing at shadows and ghosts, while the Quantum Phoenix moved through their formation like a shark among minnows. Target their command ship. Show them what a Chaos torpedo can do. The weapon that launched from the Quantum Phoenix wasn't made of matter or energy. It was made of pure possibility, a packet of quantum uncertainty that convinced the target's atoms to forget how to be organized. The Alliance command ship simply came apart, its hull unraveling like a sweater with a pulled thread. "Impossible," came a transmission from one of the remaining ships. "Their weapons operate outside the parameters of known physics." "Unknown is just another word for chaotic," Derek replied. "And chaos is what we do best." The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 11 Alliance ships were drifting helplessly, their crews unconscious but alive, their weapons systems convinced. They were actually flowers, and their engines temporarily forgotten how to produce thrust. The 12th ship had escaped by jumping to hyperspace, no doubt carrying news of humanity's return to Alliance headquarters. "Sir," Amy reported, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from across this sector. Other species are asking if we're really human, if we're really back." "Put them through," Derek said. The main screen filled with faces from a dozen different species. Some Derek recognized from the historical records: Kelthani, Minervan, Solani. Others were completely new, species that had evolved or been discovered in the 50 years since the exile. "This is Hive Commander Zixtal of the Free Kelthani Defense Corps," said an insect-like being whose voice carried notes of hope and desperation. "Are you truly the humans who were cast out 50 years ago?" "We are," Ambassador Miller replied, "and we've come back to help. The Alliance controls most of our former territory," another voice said. This one belonged to a being that looked like living crystal, beautiful and fragile. "They have eliminated 37 species in the past decade alone. Those of us who remain are barely holding on." "How?" asked a third voice, this one from a creature that seemed to be made of living starlight. "How did you survive in the void sectors? How did you become so powerful?" Derek and Miller exchanged glances. "How did you explain 50 years of learning? To dance with chaos? How did you describe the process of being broken down and rebuilt into something stronger?" "We learned," Miller said simply. "We learned that being different isn't a weakness. It's the source of all strength. We learned that chaos isn't the enemy of order. It's the mother of possibility. And we learned that when the galaxy casts you out, sometimes that's exactly where you need to be to become what you were meant to be. Will you help us?" Hive Commander Zixtal asked. "The Alliance grows stronger every day. Soon, there will be no free species left in the galaxy." Derek looked at the faces on the screen, beings who were fighting for the simple right to exist as they were. 50 years ago, these same species had voted to exile humanity. Now they were asking for help from the people they had cast out. The irony wasn't lost on him, but it also didn't matter. This wasn't about revenge or vindication. This was about the future of the galaxy itself. "We're not just going to help you," Derek said. "We're going to liberate you. Every species, every world, every being that wants to be free. The Alliance thinks they can impose their vision of purity on the galaxy. They're about to learn what organized chaos can accomplish." "How?" the crystal being asked. "The Alliance has millions of ships, billions of soldiers, weapons that can sterilize entire war." 5 years after humanity's return, General Alex Cooper stood on the command deck of the Liberation ship Freedom's Dawn, watching the final approach to Nexus Prime, the station that had once been the heart of Confederation power, and later Neter, capital of tyranny, now floated before them like a dying star, its lights flickering, its defenses crumbling, its authority over the galaxy finally coming to an end. "Sir, all fleet groups report ready," announced Captain Jenny Brooks from the tactical station. The bridge around them was a mix of human technology and systems, donated by the dozens of liberated species that now fought alongside them. Kelthani. Navigation computers worked alongside Minervan weapon systems, while Solani artists had painted murals on the walls that seemed to dance with their own inner light. Alex nodded, looking at the diverse fleet spread out around them. Ships from 43 different species moved in perfect harmony, each contributing their unique strengths to the final assault. The Korthic warriors had provided heavy assault vessels with armor that could absorb energy weapons. The ethereal survivors, thought extinct by the Alliance, had returned with ships that could phase in and out of reality. Even species that had been discovered only recently, freed from Alliance prison worlds, had joined the fight. "Status of the Harmony engine?" Alex asked. "Still active," replied Dr. Lisa Park, who had inherited her mother Elena's gift for understanding impossible technologies. "It's broadcasting on all known frequencies, trying to force conformity on every mind in the system. But our chaos shields are holding." The Harmony engine was the Alliance's ultimate weapon, a massive device built into the core of Nexus Prime itself. It projected a field that suppressed individual thought, creativity, and emotional variation, turning entire populations into mindless drones who followed Alliance orders without question. For 5 years, it had been the source of the Alliance's power, the tool they used to maintain control over the galaxy. "Sir, incoming transmission from Supreme Commander Zethkar," Jenny reported. "He's requesting ... negotiations." Alex almost laughed. 5 years ago, Zethkar had declared that there could be no negotiation with chaos. Now, with his empire crumbling around him, he wanted to talk. Put him through. The main screen filled with the image of the Zephyrian leader. But Zethkar was no longer the coldly perfect being he had once been. His pale skin was marked with stress lines. His black eyes showed something that might have been fear, and his voice carried the strain of a leader who had watched his perfect order collapse into beautiful chaos. "General Cooper," Zethkar said, "you have demonstrated the destructive power of your chaos technology. But surely you understand that without order, without control, the galaxy will descend into madness. I offer you a compromise. Join with us. Help us create a new form of order that incorporates limited chaos. Together, we can rule the galaxy with both stability and controlled creativity." Alex looked around the bridge at the faces of beings from dozens of worlds. Human and alien, young and old, each one unique, each one free to think and feel, dream as they chose. These were the people Zethkar wanted to control, to force into his vision of perfection. "Commander Zethkar," Alex replied, 5 years ago, you told our ambassador that there could be no coexistence with chaos. You are right. There can't be coexistence between freedom and tyranny, between diversity and forced conformity, between the right to be different and the demand to be the same. But you were wrong about which side would survive. You cannot destroy the Harmony engine," Zethkar said desperately. "It is protected by quantum barriers that even your chaos weapons cannot penetrate. And if you try to assault the station directly, the engine will activate at full power, turning every mind in the system into a perfectly ordered collective. Is that what you want? To save the galaxy by lobotomizing everyone in it?" Alex smiled. "You still don't understand what chaos really means, do you? You think it's about destruction, about tearing things down, but chaos is about possibility. It's about finding new ways to solve old problems." He gestured to Jenny, who opened a new communication channel. "Captain Maria Santos, you're cleared for Operation Harmony." On the screen, Zethkar's eyes widened in surprise. "Impossible. Maria Santos died in the Battle of the Kepler Nebula 3 years ago. Our records confirmed it." "Your records were wrong," came Maria's voice over the comm system. "But then, your records have been wrong about a lot of things." The space around Nexus Prime began to shimmer, and suddenly Maria's ship, the Chaos Dancer, materialized directly inside the station's defensive perimeter. But it wasn't alone. With it came a fleet of smaller vessels, each one crewed by beings who had once been Alliance prisoners, scientists, artists, philosophers, and freethinkers who had been scheduled for genetic correction. "You see, Zethkar," Alex continued, "while you were building your perfect engine of conformity, we were talking to the people you imprisoned. Turns out, some of them had very interesting ideas about how your Harmony engine actually works." "Doctor." Amy Rodriguez's voice came over the comm from the Chaos Dancer. "The Harmony engine doesn't just suppress individual thought. It creates a quantum resonance field that enforces a single pattern of consciousness across all minds within its range. But every resonance has a counter-resonance. Every pattern can be disrupted by its opposite." "What are you saying?" Zethkar demanded. "I'm saying that, instead of trying to destroy your engine, we're going to feed it something it can't digest," Amy replied. "We're going to give it chaos itself, the liberated." Ships began to spread out around Nexus Prime, each one broadcasting a different signal. But these weren't weapon signatures or communication frequencies. They were consciousness patterns, the unique thought waves of every free mind in the fleet. Human creativity, Kolthani collective wisdom, Minervan artistic inspiration, Silani. Emotional depth, Korthek warrior courage. Dozens of different ways of thinking and feeling, all broadcast simultaneously toward the Harmony engine. No, Zethkar whispered. You cannot. The engine is designed to create order from chaos. It cannot process true randomness. Exactly, Alex said. Your engine expects thoughts it can categorize, emotions it can control, dreams it can standardize. What it's getting instead is pure diversity, the combined consciousness of 43 different species, all thinking and feeling in their own unique ways at the same time. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The Harmony engine, designed to impose a single pattern of thought on billions of minds, suddenly found itself trying to process patterns that had no commonality, no shared structure, no way to be reduced to a simple formula. The quantum resonance field that had oppressed the galaxy for 5 years began to fluctuate wildly. Engine overload detected, reported Dr. Park. The quantum field is destabilizing. But, sir, the feedback could affect every mind in the system. If this goes wrong, it won't go wrong, Alex said firmly. Because chaos isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. The Harmony engine's death throes were visible across the entire system. The device that had projected rigid order for so long began to emit waves of pure possibility instead. And wherever those waves touched, minds that had been suppressed for years suddenly remembered what it felt like to think for themselves. On Nexus Prime, Alliance soldiers stopped marching in perfect formation and began to look around in confusion. On the prison worlds throughout the system, guards who had mindlessly followed orders for years suddenly questioned what they were doing. And in the depths of space, Alliance fleet commanders found themselves unable to remember why they had been fighting to eliminate diversity from the galaxy. Sir, Jenny reported, we're receiving surrender signals from over 300 Alliance vessels. Their crews are confused. They're asking what they're supposed to do now that they can think for themselves again. Tell them they're free. Alex replied, free to go home, free to think, free to be whatever they want to be. The age of forced conformity is over. On the main screen, Zethkar's image was flickering as the communication systems on Nexus Prime began to fail. But his voice came through clearly, filled with something that sounded almost like wonder. What what have you done? I can feel things I have not felt in decades. Doubt, curiosity, even even beauty. How is this possible? Because that's what freedom feels like, Alex said gently. The Harmony engine didn't just suppress other people's thoughts, Zethkar. It suppressed yours too. You've been a prisoner of your own system for so long that you'd forgotten what it was like to be truly alive. Over the following months, the transformation of the galaxy accelerated beyond anyone's expectations. The collapse of the Harmony engine had freed billions of minds that had been suppressed for years. Species that had been declared extinct were found to be alive and well, hidden in remote colonies or preserved in Alliance research facilities. Art, music, literature, and science that had been banned for decades suddenly flourished again. But the greatest change was in how the species of the galaxy related to each other. The old Confederation had been built on the idea that different species should keep to their own territories, interacting only through formal diplomatic channels. The Alliance had tried to force everyone to be the same. The new government that emerged from the liberation was something ent.